Welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast, a show where we talk about HVAC business ownership and financial freedom by sharing stories and advice of experts who can help you get there. Now your host, John Victoria.
Hello and welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. We are coming at you with another episode. And today the episode will be with Mr. Bobby Giurintano, aka Bobby G to the world. And today we are talking about overpaying for workers' compensation. We all know this is something that's necessary to protect our team and to protect the company. But the thing that you might not realize is that you might be overpaying. And there is potentially tens of thousands of dollars waiting for you that you just didn't know that you had. And so I'm excited today because we are talking with Bobby G, who's going to cover the basics of what that is and how you can recover that money and what is the process of being able to get this money back. And this is up to a 75% recovery rate is what I was very surprised about when I spoke to Bobby. But with that, let's welcome Bobby to the show. Bobby, how are you?
I'm doing good, John. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be a lot of fun.
I'm super excited for today. So I think just to kick things off, I think people want to learn more about you. You're reigning in from Staten Island, I believe. And and I think that there's, a lot that we can cover from your story. But, maybe let's just start off, with you as a kid. Like you started off wanting to do professional hockey. And could you just talk a little bit about that and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So as a kid, the parents always said that I was easy baby to watch because they would just throw me in front of a television. My little head would spin back and forth watching the puck. So it was very, very easy to watch me as a kid. But even growing older, I always wanted to be a professional hockey player. But I did lack a very key ingredient to becoming that, which was talent. I could have worked my butt off. It wouldn't have made a difference because I just didn't have the talent to compete with the better folks out there. So, but I always loved it, and I always had a knack for business too. It was always as a kid, whether it's selling baseball cards or doing car washes or something. I always wanted to kind of get involved in business in some aspect. So as the years went on, I eventually graduated high school and like most kids had no clue what I wanted to do for a living. So I did not go to college against my parents' wishes. Sorry, Mom. She was very upset about the time. So was my dad, but eventually they got over it. I just had no clue what I wanted to do. So I was like, why do that? So I said, you know what? I'm pretty good with people and I like to bust my butt. So I went into sales, which kind of tailed right into business. And I started off as an assistant manager, a sales associate, worked my way up to assistant manager at a sneaker store. Eventually left there, went into a sales job, which led me to my career of almost 20 years in the Copier business. I worked for an awesome company for a long time, which kind of really got me cemented in the corporate world as far as sales and just kind of business to business relationships and helping customers, customer service, and pretty much all that and above. And then finally came the time when I wanted to do my own thing. So I teamed up with my buddy and we started a company, Recovery Guardian. And now we're finding companies money by reviewing their workers' comp.
Wow, that's incredible. And there's so many, I know you just broadly glazed over, but there's so many things that you had to go through in order to get to where you are today. And I guess, one thing I wanted to tease apart first was, you were 20 years in the printer and copier business, but then you transitioned into what you're currently in now. And when we were talking before, I remember you mentioning that your current business partner, he tried to bring you in, I think it was like 5 years ago, and you were hesitant to leap in. And so could you talk to me about like that experience of, when he first mentioned it to you, then making that leap, right? There's something that must have happened, whether that's an environment or internally that made you make that leap. And I'd love to tease that apart a bit.
Yeah, sure. So he's been a buddy of mine for a while, and you're pretty much accurate. The last 5 years or so, he's kind of breaking my chops to, kind of get me to join forces with him and start a company together and kind of focus on the workers' comp audits for companies. And at first, I had no idea what it was. I'd never heard of it. It made no sense to me. And then finally, it was actually just before COVID, we had sat down and I started asking him a lot more questions about it because I was really curious. And I was looking to make a change. I mean, I love the company I worked for, I really did, but the industry is very challenging. And not so much the challenging part was that it's just very customer service intensive. So I found myself doing a lot more admin stuff and less selling and business development. So my income was slowly going up, but because I take care of the clients and I take a lot of pride in that. So, but didn't have the right systems and tools in place to really help the salespeople go out and sell more. So I had to spend a lot of time servicing my clients and doing other stuff that was just admin related. So me and my buddy started talking. I started asking more questions, and every question I asked, he kept giving me more and more information that kept piquing my interest. And at first, when he told me that 75% of companies are overpaying, I said, I don't believe you. And he said, no, I'm dead serious. I was like, all right. I said, well, I'm going to do my research and find out. And sure enough, I did my research, and it's dead accurate. It's actually crazy just how many companies are overpaying and the high percentage of it. So, so then fast forward a little bit, we got a little more serious about it. And I just kept doing more and more research, and I learned that a lot of the competitors out there are kind of asleep at the wheel. They don't have sales teams, they don't have outreach, they're not doing the things we do to kind of make this service out there in the open. And companies should absolutely take advantage of it. It's a no-cost service, a no-risk service, and the worst scenario is nothing. Is we don't find your money. That's really it. The client's investment is maybe an hour or so the entire time, the entire process. So it's very minimal effort on their end. And there could be a huge substantial return in addition to savings going forward. So all those things is a positive. After I kind of did my research and realized there is a huge market for this, because I wasn't sure how big of a market it was, because it is a very niche type of service. Once I learned that there really is a large market for it and that very few people even knew it existed or knew they can go about getting these refunds, I said to him, hey, man, let's do it. I said, we shook hands. I said, let's do it. Let's make it happen. And kind of started the business and, kind of did it literally my nights and weekends, because I had the full-time position still in my job. So I couldn't really do too much in the daytime. Actually, I really couldn't do anything at all in the daytime. So I pretty much had to do my free time. And then I just kind of saw a few things happening that kind of got me excited. I saw momentum building up, just me literally putting in a handful of hours a week. And that's when I kind of said to myself that, I think I told you this when we had spoken the first time, it was kind of like Tony Robbins says, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. So it was like, there's no way I could do both. And there's no way I can just do one. So it was just kind of like, I had to kind of make it a thing. And I thought about it, gave a lot of thought. And I said, you know what, it's time for a change. It's time for me to go out on my own, and risk aside, fear aside, just do it. And I did. And my last day full time was May 1st. And now I've been on my own since. So it was scary, that's for sure. It was definitely scary, and some sleepless nights. But I encourage anyone, if you have a dream or you have something, don't fear, take the chance, go for it. But go for it 100%.
And there's a few things that you said that I notice are, common threads that other folks as well, like when they're first making that leap, what you chose to do was not just go completely into it, right? First you were understanding what the opportunity was. And then after that, you spent part-time, like you didn't go full-time into it. I'm sure you have different obligations that you have, whether that's living expenses or familial or things like that. And it sounds like at a certain point, there was like a pivot point where the opportunity of what was possible was greater than what you had currently. And I think that's the point that a lot of people want to get to, where it's like, they call it like the golden handcuffs, right? You're at a corporate job, or you're cushy, you got all the benefits, you're being paid really well. And it's like, am I going to give up this for something that is a high degree of risk? And that's a very scary thing. And for you, it sounds like you had to go through this research process for you to be comfortable with making that leap. And even now, I imagine still, for me to this day, like starting the business, there's still like these fears, these gnawing things that are like, oh, you know what? I don't know. But there's just something in the background that we are always having to battle against. And so if you were to coach someone, getting over that, like what other things might you tell them to help resolve some of those fears and, stay true to the course, right? Burn the boats behind them and continue to. Yeah.
And that's a good point, man. And you're right. I mean, listen, it's scary. I go from making a significant, 6-figure income to literally, when I started with the company full time, we were making zero revenue, not $1. So I go from making a bunch of money to nothing. So it wasn't that I was leaving because we were making so much money on the other side. I was like, all right, we're making tons of money now. It's surpassing the income I have. I took the leap and leap of faith and believed in myself. I know what I was capable of. I know my skills. So, I mean, listen, for those people that are out there that want to make that leap and that take that risk, you have to to know what's in it for you. You have to know that you're capable of doing it, that if you put the energy and enthusiasm and the work in, because that's the biggest part of it is the work. People don't realize everybody wants to be in great shape. Everyone wants to make tons of money, but you got to understand, you got to go to the gym, you got to eat healthy, you got to put the time in, you got to stay committed to the activity day in, day out, do the redundant tasks that are boring, and just know that if you keep staying committed to positive activity, that down the line, good things will come. So I do compare a lot of business to fitness, because it's, you can go to the gym 3-4 days in a row, you'll see nothing. You'll see no results. And you're like, man, am I doing this? Or should I be doing this? Right.
Like,
should I be doing this? I stick with it, like I don't know. Am I ever going to get to shape? The thing is, the time goes so quick. I mean, look at that. We're almost at 3 years since COVID became a reality. So that's almost 3 years ago already. So time just goes so quickly. So it's just a matter of having confidence in yourself, believing yourself, and just know that there's going to be a lot of down. There's going to be a lot of days you doubt yourself, a lot of failures, a lot of dragging through the mud. It's just one of those things. It's part of the process, and you have to stay committed to yourself, stay committed to the effort, and just be laser focused. If you can do all those things, anything is possible. Just like my pop used to say, and it's on my email signature when I email from my phone. He used to always tell me, he goes, you can do anything you want in life as long as you put your heart and mind behind it. And I do believe that to this day, and I still tell folks the same thing. You just have to want it bad enough. That's it.
Love that. Yeah, it's that passion, that burning desire to just make it happen. Because there's gonna be cold days, like things aren't going the way that you expected, and doubts of wanting to quit. But remember why you started. I think that's good advice that I was given in the past. And also one thing you mentioned in our previous call as well was just making sure to have enough savings in place. Right. Having some runway so that if revenue doesn't come in, like, you are protected and you're covering your obligations. And that's, the podcast being around financial freedom, an important key step is always to have that emergency fund in place so you can take risks like this if you haven't fully made the jump into running your own business just yet.
No, I totally agree. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They expect to be in business and we're going to make tons of money right away. It's going to be great. I'm like, no, that's not the case. It's going to take you about 18 to 24 months just to figure out what the hell you're actually doing. And then you might be able to make some money in between that, of course, obviously to make some money in between, but you do want to always focus on what's a worst case scenario. This way you're prepared for it. Because if you think that you're going to come out of the gate and start making tons of money and things are going to go great and everything is planned and all these clients going to work with us and everything is just awesome and amazing. And then one day you have 3 or 4 or 5 people cancel on you or say they're not going to move forward with you, or they're not going to do this, or this is going to happen, or whatever the case may be. You just have to understand that there's going to be a lot of time that's be frustrated and mad. But honestly, you have to just hang on tight and just make sure you can get through the storm, because in the end, there will be light at the end of the tunnel if you're willing to put in the time and the effort.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I love that. So I guess transitioning now to Recovery Guardian. I mean, I was just so impressed by a number of the case studies that I'd seen about your company. So I'm going to read a few of them. The first one, this was for a president of a construction company. And it sounded like, they had a broker and safety group that annually audits their books. And they thought that they wouldn't find anything, or you wouldn't find anything. And then you guys recovered $42,000 in overpayments. Another one was an owner of a sheet metal fabricator company. They said they didn't even know that you could audit these policies, and it was almost like it was a scam. They're like, "Oh, this sounds too good to be true," and then you recovered $65,000.
That's one I can never forget. It was pretty funny.
And then another one, owner of a moving company. They said that, "Oh, you're wasting your time. We've already done this with another competitor, and still you recovered $20,000." So I guess before we hop into everything that you do, like, it sounds like there's misconceptions that business owners have around this. Could you speak to some of those things?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's probably a bigger struggle, just getting the message out there that, hey, just give us a shot, because in the end, there's nothing you can lose. And yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, a lot of folks tend to think that they're all set, they have us taken care of, that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's a reason why we find money for companies 3 out of 4 times. I try to stress that. I'm like, there's a good reason why we find money, because we have experts that have been doing this over 30 years, and this is all they do day in, day out. And like my partner Rob always says, the devil is in the details. details. You really have to dive deep and spend a real amount of time looking through all these things to try to find these mistakes. And sometimes it can be easily overlooked because it's a mundane detail that is one decimal point or one number or one factor that makes a huge difference in a recovery. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that people just think they don't need our services because they're taken care of. And listen, we're super supportive of brokers and agents. We are not anti-brokers and agents by any means. A lot of them do an incredible job. It's just that their job is to sell and to produce. They also do multiple lines of insurance. So though they might be really well versed in workers' comp, they're not quite the experts our team is. Our team, like I said, does these audits day in, day out, all day, every day, and they've done thousands of them. So this is all they do. So they're experts at it. So you think that people just giving us a chance and saying, hey, listen, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? Nothing. So why not? And the best thing that can happen is they get a whole bunch of money back and then lower their premiums going forward. So there's just a lot for them to gain and virtually zero for them to lose. So those are the things that some of the things that are misconceptions, just that that people are just fearful of the unknown, I guess, because it's kind of a thing that they've never heard of sometimes, or sometimes they think they're all set. And I'm like, just give us a shot. I'm like, let us prove you wrong. I'm like, because if we prove you wrong, there's a check coming, and savings. So there's not a bad thing if we prove you wrong. It's not a I told you so kind of a thing. It's, hey, listen, don't let those carriers keep your money, because if you don't go after it, they're not going to call you and say, hey, John, we happen to made a mistake here. We're going to send you a check for $30,000. That call is never going to happen. So it's give us a shot. We don't charge a dime. We're fun to work with. We work with your broker and agent. Like I said, we're not undermining anyone. At the end of the day, we're just trying to take the money back from the carriers and put it back in your pocket. And believe it or not, most of the errors and mistakes we find come from the carrier. So it's something you kind of have to look deep into. Otherwise, on the surface, you won't see that.
I see. So it's not even something that the business owner did. It's something that the carrier who is providing the workers' comp, like there's could it be mathematical mistakes? It could just be, something was missing here or there. And then because of that, it leads to this loss in, tens of thousands of dollars. And it's not even like it was intentional. I imagine it's just there's just so many details.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many people that get involved when it comes to workers' comp. Between the states and the carriers and the actuaries and all the ratings bureaus, and there's just so many people that get involved in it that it's near impossible for it to be a mistake. And like I always say to folks, they should change it from workers' compensation to workers' complicated, because it really is just a super complicated insurance. The average person, even a well-versed average person, I mean, we tell them they learn stuff from us all the time that they didn't know, that they swore that they knew everything. So it's just one of those things that's just a very, very tough thing to manage for a company. And if we can go ahead and put some money back in your pocket and just correct some mistakes going forward and give you some knowledge, I mean, there's just tons to gain there.
Got it. And is this something in terms of I guess I have two questions. The first one is, so when we do the recovery, how does that money come back? Does it come back in the form of a check, or does it come back in the form of, not having to pay, workers' comp or a discount in the future? How does the money get back to you?
Yeah, sure. Either or. So when we present the report and the findings to the client sends it off to the insurance carrier. They review it. Once they approve our changes, they usually give the client an option of getting a check in the mail or a credit towards an upcoming installment. But either is the same. It's still money back in their bank account that they don't have to spend money on. So and we'll get paid from that once they receive their credit or their check. So we don't take any money unless the client is paid. So we're basically the last step in the process.
Got it. Okay. So it's just, there's optionality for your clients.
Yep.
And then could you also speak to, the size of companies? There's different types of companies that, have reached out to me that watch the show. Some are family businesses, some are one-man shops. Some people, they have 10, 20 people, some have more than that. So could you speak to who this makes sense for? Does it make sense for any company, or does it make sense for only a specific demographic of company?
Sure, that's a real good question. So there are 6 verticals that we typically target simply because they tend to have the higher risk of other types of companies. So construction and trades, manufacturing, transportation distribution, healthcare, hospitality, and nonprofit. So we actually look for companies that are spending at least $50,000 a year in workers' comp. In the higher risk industries like construction trades, manufacturing, distribution, you're probably looking at companies that have 20 employees or more. Nonprofits, healthcare, and hospitality, maybe about 50 or more, give or take. And it could be, like I said, those aren't exact numbers. It just depends. Every situation is unique. That's just a ballpark to give you. So we don't want to exclude the smaller companies because it's not, not fair for them to take advantage of something like this. But, obviously the 1 or 5 or 10 person companies just might be too small where there's just not enough meat on the bone for us to do the amount of work that we do. Because whether or not, believe it or not, the size of the policy doesn't make a difference because the amount of work is still exactly the same. So for us to review a really small policy to potentially find, a few $100 or $1,000 when it's all said and done. And then, of course, after Uncle Sam takes his piece, we're left with like, $3 or $4. So it's like, we don't want to do that because it's not a profitable way of doing business, but we will take calls with companies that might not fit the bill and just give them advice and some guidance, some things they can do that'll actually help them keep their costs down and just give them better knowledge. We're more than open to talking to anyone, even if they're not a right fit in terms of size. We'd be more than happy to give any information or any guidance to them. So hope that helps. And we can do it in any state. There are 4 monopolistic states. I'm not going to get into that, but basically from coast to coast, we can help companies.
Got it. So coast to coast, then sound like the bar for, a company in the trades, you said it was 50K in workers' comp and then around 20 employees. It really, depending on the company, how much people pay people, but 50K in workers' comp.
Yep, annual spend. You spend at least 50K a year. We could definitely work with you. Even if it's a little under 50K, we're cool with that. We'll be glad to help you out.
Okay. Got it. That's good to know, just so people know, like, whether it's, worth exploring or not, but also like worst case, like they reach out to you and there's really no cost to them. And you'll tell them like, hey, here's the situation. Here's what's going on. It makes sense or it doesn't make sense.
Yep, exactly. And so there really is, there's just no downside to it. I mean, the biggest downside is not doing it. Is just not moving forward because you don't know what you don't know. And, why waste that money? Why let that money go to the wayside and let a giant company keep it in your behalf when you can put it back in your pocket and use it for some good stuff?
And how long does the process usually take? So let's say that, for example, I met with you today. We talked. You said, hey, John, this is perfect for you. You're spending at least 50K, you got 20 employees. And then what do the next steps look like? And what's the overall timeline of getting from today to getting the check in my hand?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we love the process to be shorter, but unfortunately, we deal with insurance carriers. That tends to be a little elongated because they're not exactly in a rush to get back their money. But now we've had cases close as early as 6 weeks, and some that take, sometimes 6 months or even a little further, depending on how detailed it is. But like I said, for the most part, the client's involvement is virtually minimal. They at most have to forward some emails, answer some questions. But the biggest laborious part of the entire process is gathering the policy documents because we look back up to 7 years. So, and there are 5 sets of documents per policy period that we look at. So that's really where the most of the effort comes in. And we do all that on the client's behalf. If they have the paper candy, great, but we don't want them gathering documents for us because that takes time out of their business, and that's what we're looking for. We want to do all the work on their behalf. So we just tell them, hey, listen, point us to your broker or whoever has the policies. If you have online access, great. Let us know if we can log in and take it from there. But pretty much from start to finish can go as quick as 6-8 weeks, or it can go up to months. It really varies case by case. Depends on the carriers, depends on, just the client too, just being, receptive and getting back to us in a timely fashion. Sometimes a client will just have to forward an email to someone and they'll forget. And then we remind them 3 weeks later, like, oh, I forgot to send that email. I'm like, oh yeah, you forgot. So stuff like that. But it could go fast and slow. It just, every case is completely unique. But I would say on average, it's usually within 90 days. It's from beginning to end on average.
Okay. 90 days from start to end. And I guess another question would be, are there specific carriers that you think that, if you have this one, you probably definitely need to get your workers out, or is it just kind of like in general?
Just the general nature of the beast, regardless of the carriers, it doesn't make a difference. And it's just weird because we've actually, when we've presented results sometimes to the same carrier, we've had one order that would approve changes that were 5 years old and another order that would approve changes that were up to 7 years old. But it's the same insurance company, but 2 different people. So it's just like, it's almost like there's no real statute of limitations. It's just, they just go by the wayside and figure it out as they go along. So there really is no carrier in particular that's, worse or better than the others. They're kind of all the same. As you said too, just a very, very tough, complicated process that's held out by admin folks and regular everyday people that aren't exactly experts.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. So no specific one, just, it's just general user error and some issues to dig in with that. And then I guess my last question around this would be, so you have this done, you look back 7 years. Is this something that should be done on an annual basis, or is there a certain amount of time when you want to re-review it again? Because even though you audited one, you got the money back, does not mean that it's going to be done right in the future. So what does the next steps look like after someone has gotten their past 7 years audited?
No, that's actually a really good question. So we usually wait about 3 years before we'll go back and review another client's. We'll go back and review the few years in between from our past audit. And the reason for that is, businesses can change. They can, like for instance, nonprofits can add new programs. Companies can work in other states. They can offer different services that might change some of the way they do business. So we always recommend every few years to let us look at it and just see if anything has changed, that maybe, any mistakes may have been made that we can reimburse you for. So every 3 years is definitely worth it once we do the original audit. It's just good to keep on top of that stuff because workers' comp can be very, very expensive. Yes. And if you're not kind of keeping on top of it, it can be a real thorn in your side. That's the one thing I learned early on, was that people really hate workers' comp insurance. I mean, we've had phone calls with people and they were just straight up angry on the phone call. Not like us, of course, but just straight up angry over the increase or how much they had to pay or this and that. So it's definitely a pain point for companies. So if we can alleviate that pain just a little bit, it makes our day worthwhile.
I love that. Okay, so you do it once, and then the next time you'll have to do it is probably 3 years from now, and then just continue to reassess it as the years go on. And again, like the people, like it sounds, for some people this might sound like an entire process, but they're taking care of most of it. Plus, you're getting money back in your pocket, right? It's not. I mean, especially this time of year, it's not. It's almost like a mini Christmas bonus. Like
sure. I mean, we got back one of the customers we got back money for. It was enough money. The owner's like, "Well, I'm gonna get myself a new car." I said, "Well, I want to ride because it's the car that we got you." It's
right.
But no, it's true. I mean, it's I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions too. To bring it back from what you said a few minutes ago, is that the clients really think they have to invest a lot of time into what we do, and it's gonna be a project, and we're too busy. I'm like, listen, if you're too busy, that's great. We're not gonna need much of your time at all. I mean, other than answering some questions and, like I said, forwarding some information out, you're not going to have to do much. We do all the legwork. So don't think for a minute it's going to be a project and something that's going to be very time consuming, because we always tell the client, if you start doing stuff, stop, call us, because you're doing way too much. Unless it's a specific task we gave you. If you're doing any more than what we asked you to do, like forward or answer a question, like don't do it. I'm like, call us, we'll do it. I agree.
I love that, man. I need you on my team. Damn. I got it, Johnny.
No, listen, we take pride in that, man. And that's a big part of it too, is because everybody's busy. Everyone has to run a company, and this is, they're getting called for 1 million salespeople for 1 million types of products and services. So we understand that they only have limited time. So if we can take a very, 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 very small chunk of that time and potentially put thousands of dollars in the bottom line and lower their costs going forward, it's a win-win for all parties.
I love that, Bobby. And I guess before we transition to the next topic, I'm curious, like, are there other, like, could you share some stories of some people you worked with recently and maybe some of the recoveries? So I know we mentioned a few earlier, and I mean, they're pretty large, right? 65K, 42K, 20K. Could you share a few other stories of folks that you might have helped recently?
Yeah, sure. So there's a hotel and golf resort. We haven't even finished theirs yet, and we found over $70,000 already. So that's a good one. And I mean, just a lot of other folks. I'm just trying to think of some top of my head. I'm trying to think. There was another construction company that we were able to find about 40-something thousand, and they'd gone through the process a few years ago with another competitor. And that's one of the things too we find, is that a lot of our competitors only look at a few categories. Depending on the state and the actual industry, we can look up to 12 areas for mistakes. So even if a client or a customer, or I should say a company, has worked with a competitor of ours, we'll still take a look, because we have actually a 50% chance of finding the money after they've worked with a competitor. So It goes down a little bit, but that just goes to show that not only do we have the best team in the business, but they really know their stuff. I'm trying to think of another good one for you. Oh, a nonprofit, actually. They actually had a smaller policy, and we were able to recoup about 50% of their annual premium based on some changes from COVID, because they didn't realize that certain things, certain job descriptions and certain things changed because of COVID. And we went in there and were able to find them a whole bunch of money that came in results. So something bad turned into something a little bit good for them, at least. So stuff like that. I mean, nonprofits are excellent. Construction trades. Those are probably two of our top industries.
Love that. And just as a strategy thing too, I just thought of this. It's like you're going to recover potentially 20 to 30 to 40, 50K or more. And, possibly what you could do is if you just reinvested that back into your growth, it's like a free way to fuel your growth, right? If you invested that into, a new website, a rebrand, or SEO or something like that, it's like you were given free money. Now that you've even given free money to just grow.
Or buy a new car, like the one customer.
Or buy a new car, right?
Buy a new car. Well, congratulations, But no, you're 100% right. It gives them the ability to take that money and to use it to help grow their business. And that's really the exciting part of what we do is when we get to make that phone call, send that email, and say, hey, I got great news for you. We're able to find you a whole bunch of money. So it really is. It's very, very rewarding. And the majority of companies we work with aren't those, monster, $500 million companies. They're the everyday type of family-owned businesses that we work with. So it really is. It's very rewarding. And every one of these folks have a great story of how they got to where they were. So being able to help them and help support them, their communities is really special.
And I guess just another question popped up around tax implications. So when it comes back, how, and maybe you might not be able to answer this, but I'm just curious if you knew, like, how is that categorized? Like, is that categorized as like income? Is that like, because it's refund on it, like how would
that? I'm not even sure of, to be honest with you. I know it comes directly from the carrier. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not an accountant, so I don't want to give any advice. That's out of my wheelhouse, because I definitely don't know how to answer that question, and I want to be held accountable for it later. But, I'm not sure. It might come in as revenue. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% positive. That's a good question. I should probably ask. I have a bunch of accountant buddies and kind of ask them what their thoughts on it, because I'm curious myself now. I have absolutely no idea. So I'm going to assume it comes in as income. That I have no idea. I didn't want to answer that question. So.
Okay. No, I'm not. We
just
scratch it from the record. Yeah, no, it's no worries. And I guess before we move on, is there anything else that you want to make sure to mention about, what you guys are doing? Anything else that would be helpful for someone who's thinking about making the leap in terms of, getting this recovery from workers' comp?
Listen, I mean, for what we do, not because it's my company, but the truth is that you should really give us a shot, or even if it's another company that's a competitor, give someone a shot, because it's a shame to let this money go by the wayside when errors and mistakes are just so high, percentage wise. Just don't let the carriers keep your money, because otherwise they're just gonna, they're gonna keep it anyway, and they're quick to tell you, hey, listen, we undercharge you. Here's an invoice for 30, 40 grand. You know what? So it's about time you take it back to them and take some of their money back. So I just say, just do it. Hopefully you choose us, but even if it's a competitor, you should definitely have somebody, a third party company, review this to see if there's money. And just, and then one piece of advice, people taking the leap, we talked about this. I told you that I had a moment just over a year ago where I was just kind of laying in bed, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm doing a lot of new things, new business, new life. And I kind of realized at that point, two things that were very important to me, and why I was never at the top of either of them was because of effort. I'd never given it 100%. And it was at that moment that I decided that everything is going to change, that I will no longer, ever not give it 100%. So for the people out there that are thinking about making a jump to a new business, a new venture, whatever it is in life, it doesn't have to be something that's monetary. It could just be getting in shape, being a better mother, a better teacher, whatever the case is that go out and try to be the best at what you do. It's not about money. People are so fixated on money and nice things. That really is a very small portion of it. At the end of the day, it's about accomplishments. It's about setting goals and knocking them out of the park. And the only way to do that is by giving it 100%. And don't kid yourself and think you're working hard. You really, really, really have to give it your all. To be successful at absolutely anything, you have to give it 100%. You have to want it bad enough, because there's going to be the days that bring you down, that suck, like you were talking about before, where you just feel like, oh, no, is it ever going to make it? Am I going to make it? Is it going to be what I want it to be? Am I going to hit that vision I wanted to have? The key is just stick with it, keep busting your butt, and be absolutely relentless in achieving that goal. And then when you hit that goal, you set a new one. Give yourself life purpose. Give yourself something to accomplish every day. Otherwise, it's like you just kind of wake up and just fly by the wind and do your day out, and Monday to Friday, and Fridays come. Oh, I can't wait for the weekend. And then Mondays come, and you're dragging ass because you hate Mondays. Stop living that life. It's terrible. Be excited about every single day. So find something that makes you happy. Do something that makes you happy, and go at it full steam.
That's a good transition to talk about mindset. And it sounds like what you're saying, and I have a phrase. It's like pulling your punches, like not actually punching. When you punch, you have to step through it. You got to twist. You got to go all the way. But like if you're holding it, that's where you can hurt yourself, like because you're not going in all the way. And why do you think that happens? Right? There's I can see this in myself as well. It's like I might start off strong, but maybe it dies down later, or maybe you just don't ever get to that place where you feel motivated to give it your 100%? Like, is this a matter of, just some people are that way, or they just have this realization in life? Because it sounds like for you, there was this moment when everything almost changed, but it's like you had been doing things before then, but there's just something that made it 100%. It made you go from like 70 to maybe 100%. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I don't know, I just want to talk more about that, because I feel like there's so much in all of us that we have not fully unlocked yet at our 100%.
Dead on accurate. I mean, everyone has potential to be great in something. Like I said, it doesn't have necessarily be business. It could be something, but find something you really enjoy and something you really want to do, and go out and be the absolute best at it. I mean, go out and work your butt off, and forget the fear, forget what people say. It doesn't make a difference. And, and listen, motivation's great, but motivation's like a campfire. If you don't put logs in the fire, what happens? The campfire goes out, your motivation dies. Just like by the third week of January, all the people that joined the gym stop going. Why? Because, I'm going to make it. This is my year. I'm going to do it. It's January. I'm going to get in shape this time. And what happens? They fall off. It's really about discipline. Listen, I started getting up crazy early in the morning to work out. Never in my life did I ever get up early like that, ever. And now I get up before the alarm even goes off, because I've trained myself that no matter what, I'm getting up regardless of how I feel that day. If I'm tired, just do it. Just do it. When you don't want to do something, just do it. When you think about not doing it, just do it. When you're not in the mood to do it, you just do it. If you just do it, all the other things in life will be so much better. It really is. If you put in the hard work, life can be a little bit easier. But if you take the easy way out, life's going to be hard. So, and then find a reason to fight. And you have to have a reason you fight every day, whether it's family, whether it's relatives, even if it's just for yourself. You got to find a reason that wakes you up every morning to get you pumped up. So for me, it's taking care of my mom, other family members that struggle. I don't have any rich family members. I got no inheritance coming. They get all drop dead. I got no checks coming in the mail. So I got no one else looking out for me but me. So for me, I wanted to make it for them. I just tell my buddy who's a big hockey fan like myself that I dream about, just calling him one day and just going to fly to games, or flying to Europe and going to see games and just paying for everything. It's stuff like that motivates me. Taking my mom and taking her on vacations wherever she wants, getting her whatever she needs. So you have to have a driving force, because if you're just doing it just for the money and the fame or the material crap, eventually that's all going to go away. You have to have a real purpose of why you're getting up, why you're busting your butt, why you're doing the things that no one else is going to do to be successful at whatever it is you want to be.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps.
Because it took time, man. It took time, a lot of mindset. I mean, listen, you got to take, the mind's the most important thing. It really is. It drives everything. So if you don't have the right mindset, if you're going to be complaining or making excuses, and believe me, I've made excuses for a good, 40 years of my life. I made excuses. So I decided that no more excuses, because excuses get you nowhere. At the end of the day, you just have to do it. Have to put in the work, stop pointing fingers, stop blaming someone else, and just get off your butt and make it happen. Because at the end of the day, only you see yourself in that mirror. You only know the truth of what you've really done, and whether or not you're full of crap or you've been out there busting your butt to make it happen. So just go out there and do it, man.
And I resonate with what you said. It's like being the first, and it's almost like changing your family line. Like for me, that's one of those things. Like you're going to be the first, like behind you, like they've been able to get you to where you are today. But like, what if you are the one that changes everything for your family by the efforts that you're putting in, the businesses that you build? And it's like it's such a incredible thing. Like thinking about that, that's part of what pushes me. And it sounds like, you share something similar, where it's like you want to take care of your family.
Absolutely, man. It's definitely a driving force. I mean, you have to. I mean, you be that person, whether it's said to. That's not always about money. It's go out and be an example, because you'll be surprised is that people start watching you, and you'd be surprised how you can not only just, get other people excited, but help other people achieve their dreams. I mean, I have a few friends that were working for companies, and I straight up told them to their face and said, you're wasting your time doing this. Go do your own thing. And I had a few friends that went out and took my advice. And I didn't know this until years later. I had a friend, and we were in tears hugging each other, because he said that I was the reason why he started his own company. And I said, what are you talking about? And he told me, and the kid's doing great. And he's just you telling me that, you being very blunt and being very brutally honest and telling me that. He goes, I needed to hear it. And he goes, and I took it seriously, and I went out and did it. And the kid's successful, and he's crushing it. So it's, not just for yourself, but people watching. You can inspire a lot of people just by working hard and being somebody. Like I said too, and it doesn't have to be about money. I think that's, it's a big crime what we face today is everyone's so worried about expensive crap that they actually focus on. It's not so much about the expensive crap. It's the work to get there and the accomplishment when you do. That's the real rewarding part.
Love that. And you just pouring into other people, because you're right. Like you in a way, for those friends that you had, like you helped unlock that 100% version of themselves. Like they needed your help to like push them, like, hey, you can do this. Like this is how it is. Like you aren't living up, so go for it. And that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you did that. You helped that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Sometimes you don't realize it when it's going on. You don't even.
You
I
never
helped a friend quit
realize.
smoking cigarettes. Every time she would go out to have a cigarette, I would run outside. I would rip it right out of her hands and stomp on it. And I would buy the gum. And I said, every time you smoke a cigarette, I'm ripping it out of your hands, out of your mouth. And I was like her cigarette. I don't know what you would call it, but I would just constantly, because I didn't want to see her smoke. And then eventually she quit. So, and she credited me for helping her quit. So it was just something small like that. It had nothing to do with being successful, but it helped her get over a habit. That's a horrible habit. So, yeah, just you can inspire people too, just by doing the things, that other people aren't willing to do.
Bobby, you're the friend that everyone needs.
I appreciate that.
I love that. So I guess as we're moving to a close, we're run up on about 40 minutes, but before we go, I want to ask you two things. First would be, top books or motivational speakers you'd recommend to everybody. And then number two, any parting advice for anyone as we transition out.
Yeah, I'm not a big reader, so I can't give you many books. I don't pay attention when I read, so I like videos, but no, I definitely listen to a lot of motivational folks. So, I mean, Eric Thomas, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Steve Harvey is awesome. I mean, there's just so many good people out there that have a lot of great things to say. And all these people have one thing in common. They've come from nothing. And probably less than nothing, probably way worse situations than you and I ever grew up in. So it's just knowing that, listen, every individual has the ability to be successful. You just have to want it bad enough. And more importantly, you have to put in the effort. And just, I hate the word hope. People say, oh, hope, I hope I'm successful. I hope I do that. Stop hoping. How about you just do it? Because you can keep hoping all you want, but hope is not going to get you there. Hope is kind of a part of it. I'm not against hope. It helps you, but at the end of the day, you got to put the work in and make the sacrifices. So ignore the people, even if it's, against what they're saying. I mean, when I was leaving my company to start this business, my bosses, who I love dearly to this day, told me I was out of my mind. It was a bad idea. I shouldn't have done this. And I just had to follow my heart and follow my dreams. And I did it, so it's just go out there and make it happen. Each and everybody has their own dreams, their own goals. Don't look back on life, because that's the most miserable feeling, is you're old, on your deathbed saying, I should have done this. I should have done that. I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Do it. If you fail at it, so what? Get up, try something else, or do it again. Don't be afraid. I mean, failure comes with all of us. I mean, the most successful people in the world, they fail the most. And I always credit the baseball. Guys make $20-30 million a year, failing 8 out of 10 times. So if you really think about that, you can fail 8 out of 10 times and still make 20-30 million a year. There's hope for everybody. You can fail. It's okay. Failure is just a learning process, but don't fail the same thing twice. You fail it twice, that's your fault. You fail it once, you learn the lesson. Fail it twice, that's your fault. So just go out there and make it happen. Put in the effort and give it all you got.
Got it. And if someone needs to reach out to you, so they're interested in looking to recover, some of those payments, like how would they get in contact? And also maybe your website as well for people to
yeah, sure. The website is simple, recoveryguardian.com. If you want to reach me directly, my email is BobbyG, the letter G, at recoveryguardian.com. You can also get my cell, which I have no problem sharing. It's 347-739-1773. And regardless of where you're located, for any of those industries I had mentioned earlier, it's absolutely worth it to have a conversation because there's a very, very good chance that you're overspending for no reason. And if you don't go after that money, it's going to be gone forever.
Bobby G, thank you so much, man. People reach out, like it's literally free.
Yes.
There's only upside.
Yes, absolutely. Especially people in the HVAC business. I know that's your line of work. So those folks too, definitely for sure.
Awesome. So I think we'll close out for today. So thank you everyone for joining us. And also as a last thank you to our sponsor, Pollyanna, SEO agency for residential HVAC contractors. And with that, thank you everyone for your time. So glad to have you on. And aside from that, I think we'll catch you on the next one. And yeah, see you there.
This is a pleasure, John. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Here, Bobby.